everyone, it's Monica, and welcome back to Tailor-Made Cards for You. Well, today is the last video for my Halloween cards, and instead of actually creating a Halloween card, I thought I would share with you some Halloween ATCs. I'm also going to be creating a little box to house these ATCs, and I'll be sharing that with you actually as a tutorial. But I thought I would begin by sharing with you some of these cute little ATCs that I've created just by playing with scraps on my desk. As you can see, there's lots of variety here. I've got some real cute ones as well as some spooky ones, and I'm using various pieces of ephemera. Some of the pieces of ephemera are actual vintage ephemera, and then some of them are from the Tim Holtz collection or just part of my personal digital collections that I create in my shop. But I wanted to share with you how to create a little box to house some of your ATCs. I know creating ATCs can be a lot of fun, but they're so small and they can easily get lost within our stash. So I decided to create a little box to actually house them and then decorate the outside of the box using some of the same elements that I would for an ATC card. Now this box is part of my Halloween collection in my shop, and I have 5 different boxes. And I created one of the boxes where it's a little bit more plain because the idea was to enable you to actually decorate it the way that you wanted to decorate it. So I started out by printing the box on some heavier cardstock, and then I took my scissors and I just basically trimmed it down. Honestly, the trimming of the paper is probably what takes the longest because putting the box together is relatively simple. So I went ahead and I cut all my pieces, and as you can see for the tabs, you're going to want to go all the way to the lines because that is also going to be your score line. And I find having some really pointy scissors actually is best because you're going to want to get, like I said, right into those crevices to ensure that your tabs will fold nicely. Now the scissors that I'm using are from the Tim Holtz collection, and these are the regular size scissors. But if you want to be able to get, real deep, you can easily use the small snips. But if you are using the regular size scissors, just be really careful that you don't actually go past the lines on the box. So once you have the box completely cut out, then you want to get out your scoreboard and you're going to want to make some score lines. Now, as you can see on this particular box, well, actually on all of the boxes, I did create some faint lines for you to follow along to help you with your score lines. And all you're going to do, like I said, is just get out your scoreboard and you're going to score all the lines. Now you could easily, fold over the lines as you go or not. It really is your choice. But you're going to want to just make sure in the end that you have some really crisp lines so that way your box will fold over really easily. And then once you get everything scored, I'll show you the other side. You're going to see that it really starts to come together. Now, once you all have all of your score lines completely scored, then you're going to want to go ahead and take your paper and fold over where your score lines are and make sure you have some nice crisp lines because, like I said, you're going to want to make sure that this box folds really nicely, and the crisper the lines, the easier it is going to be to put together. Now, as you can see, this box is the perfect size for an ATC card. And that really was my idea when I put this box together because, like I said, I try to be somewhat functional when I create some of my digitals. And I have a lot of pieces of ephemera, and the boxes are really cute, not only for the housing of the ATC cards, but also for little pieces of ephemera. So there's a couple of ways that you could actually decorate your box. You can certainly decorate it right onto the box and not work with an ATC card. But I wanted to cover up that Happy Halloween, so I went ahead and I just cut out a piece of the Tim Holtz backing for the Ideaology, and I'm going to use that for the base of my ATC card. And as you can see, it has a really nice spider web for my background, so I didn't have to ink it up or add any stamping. I was just able to just start with my ephemera. Now, when you're creating ATC cards, there's a lot of ways you can go. You can use some of the Remnant rubs, and there's several companies out there that have these Remnant rubs. Tim Holtz certainly has some of the Halloween ones, but I had these arsenic labels that were Remnant rubs from, I want to say, Canvas Corp brand. And then the little witch sitting on the grave is actually from my shop, and this is a sticker set that I've created especially for this, to create little collages. And these little stickers are perfect. They're small enough where you can create ATC cards. You can use them on tags, or just part of a bigger design. And then finally, pieces of ephemera. Now, pieces of ephemera come in all sorts of shapes and sizes. You can get authentic vintage ephemera, such as I'm going to be showing you here. Actually, I don't think I used my vintage ephemera on this particular one, but I did use it on one of the ones I showed you earlier. But it's a little art ticket. I have some orange tickets that are actually authentic vintage ephemera, and those are also in my shop. And then I have some of the Tim Holtz pieces that I've had over the last several Halloweens. I didn't actually buy any pieces of ephemera this year because I have a little bit of a collection going on, and I really wanted to be able to use up what I had. Now, one of the things that I love about creating ATCs is there really is no rules. I usually will just pull things right off of my scrap table, especially if I've been creating and I have lots of little pieces. You can add washi tape, you can add torn pieces of paper, numbers, stickers. There's a lot of ways you can go to create ATC cards. And ATC cards, to me, are all about layering. You want to definitely add several pieces to create a layer, but then you also want to be somewhat strategic, because if there's a word or a number that you want to show, you want to make sure that you place it accordingly. So as you can see, I was kind of playing around here with the number 31. And then ultimately I actually decided to go with this little pumpkin just because I thought that it matched the orange ticket a little bit more. And that's why I said I don't typically do ATCs on a video, because I do a lot of switching out of my pieces of ephemera. I don't necessarily go in with a design already in mind. It's just a matter of if it looks good when I'm actually placing the piece down on my ATC card, then I'll go with it. And a lot of times when I am creating ATC cards, I don't typically glue it down until I'm positive that's where I want it to go. Because like I said, you're doing a lot of layering on your ATCs, and once you glue it down, you may not be able to get a piece that you find underneath your stash after you've had it glued. All right, so once you're happy with your design, I went ahead, I'm using some red line tape to adhere the ATC to my box. And you could have easily used some glue, just regular tape, double-sided tape, anything to adhere it to your box. Now, I'm going to use this tool here, and this is a tool that I actually got from the hardware store. And these are picks that are great to remove some of this red line tape. I know that there are some picks out there at some of the craft stores, but I really like this set because I get 5 different picks and they're different curvatures, so they work great for my crafting. And I think the pick set only costs a couple dollars. So I think I've said this before, don't forget to check out your hardware store, because sometimes you can find some of the tools that you need at a lot cheaper price than some of the craft stores. All right, so once I removed the red line tape, then it was time to adhere my ATC card to the front of my box. And then I wanted to also share with you a product that I saw somebody else use. And this product is called Antique Matte Mod Podge. I know that we've all used Mod Podge before, but when I saw someone using this and it said it was an antique matte, I wanted to try it out. I couldn't find it at Michael's or even at Hobby Lobby, so I ended up buying it online from Amazon. And it was a little bit more pricey than I expected, but I still wanted to give it a try. Now, when I actually added it to the top of my ATC card, there was a couple things that I noticed. Number one, I didn't think it was all that antique in color. It came out somewhat clear. If there was any brown color to it, then it was very slight, because I really couldn't tell the difference. But it certainly did work as a good adhesive to kind of marry all of my pieces together and make sure that they weren't going to move. And the Mod Podge is great because it dries fairly quickly. So I went ahead and I just used a small paintbrush and I added the Mod Podge over my items. And then I started, or actually I blew on it a few times. I didn't want to have to necessarily get out my heating tool. And within a minute or so, it was pretty much dry. And then I was able to go ahead and start putting my box together. Now, the putting together of the box is very easy. From the bottom, you're going to want to go ahead and put your tabs on the inside as I was doing here, and you're going to want to glue those down. And then that's going to leave you with the back portion actually unglued. So once you glue those tabs in to kind of form your box, give it a minute so that way it somewhat dries a little bit. And then once your box has its shape, then you're going to want to go ahead and add your glue to the outside edge as I'm doing here, and you'll be able to fold over the back part of your box. And for the most part, once you have this glued, your box is pretty much together. There's just some final snips that you want to do to make sure that the closure of your box will be nice and smooth. Now, on the back part of your box, if you do want to punch a little tab so that way your box opens and closes easier, you can certainly do that, but I would recommend doing that before you actually glue the box. And then for the closing of the box, on the top flap, I like to round my corners. And then on these little tabs here, I like to trim them up just a bit so that way the box will close a lot easier. Okay, so with the box complete, I did want to go ahead and at least put one ATC card together with you on camera. So that's what we're going to go ahead and do now. So your back, like I said, when I started on the first ATC card for my box, it was off of some of the Tim Holtz backing for his Ephemera. And this piece here is just a piece of paper from one of his paper sets. And it created a perfect background for an ATC card. And all I did was trim it down a bit, and then I also used some black cardstock to frame it up. Ultimately, your size you want your size to be 2.5 by 3.5. So just make sure when you're trimming it down that that's the final measurements that you have for your ATC card. All right, and then from here, it's just a matter of, like I said, just sifting through some of your pieces to create your background. For this particular background, I decided to use another one of the Remnant rips, and this is one of those pharmacy labels from Canvas Corp brand. And then I really liked the way that the owl looked on this card. So that was going to be one of my focal points. And then it was just a matter of figuring out where I wanted to put my toxic label. Now, I also decided to use some of the Remnant rubs from some of my Halloween collection from the previous years. And if you've never used Remnant rubs, they're great. They're really small, so they're perfect for ATC cards. And not only do they have words, but they have labels, they have pictures, and they're really great for ATC cards because, again, they're really small and they're perfectly sized. Now, when I'm gluing down the pieces for my ATCs, I'm usually using glue and not an adhesive tape because I want to be able to have some movement to my items when I'm placing them down on my card. A lot of times my first place may not be exactly where I want it to go. So I want to have a couple of seconds to be able to move my item around if need be. So as you can see with my Remnant rubs, I'm using my stylus and I'm just adding pieces of I think these are labels that I'm putting onto the ATC card. And these are 3 labels that go with my poison theme. And I'm just kind of adding them to various parts of my card. And if you've never used the Remnant rubs before, what I would say is when you are actually rubbing them down, take it really slow. When you start to lift up the plastic, do it slowly because you want to make sure that parts of the picture that you're rubbing down doesn't tear off. And that does happen sometimes. So typically when I am using my stylus and I'm rubbing down my words or my picture, I'll pull it up slowly and continue to rub with the stylus just to make sure I get all of the black part of my Remnant rub. So after I've got my labels on my card, I decided I wanted to add some spiders. So this spider here I thought was perfect. I could go ahead and attach it to make it look like it was coming right off of the label. And then I'll have some other spiders also on the card. And it really did work together. It's really fun working with these ATCs because it's fun to see the actual picture come together. And like I said, ordinarily when I'm creating cards, I already have a design in mind. I've probably tried out my design, But with ATCs, I just kind of go with it. I just try different things. And it's really relaxing. I really love creating ATCs because it's really part of a creative process. You can just sit at your desk and try different things and just kind of play a little bit. And I don't do it very often. So I thought, like I said, for my last video, I would go ahead and put together some ATCs so you can kind of see my process for kind of mixing and matching some of my items. And the addition of the spiders I just thought was perfect, especially that hanging spider. I just thought it looked great. So once I had my spiders adhered, and as you can see here, I'm having a problem with one of the legs, I ended up taking a pen and just drawing part of the leg that didn't actually come off of the Remnant rub. And that was fine too. I mean, I know a lot of us have really fine point pens, and I ended up just tracing part of the leg with a black pen to finish off the spider leg. All right, so the ATC was pretty much complete, but I did want to put a little word on it, and kind of was flipping through my Halloween words, and the word I ended up finding was the end. And I thought this was great because this was the last Halloween video that I was going to be creating this season, and it was kind of the end of my Halloween series of cards and projects. So that's the word I ended up going with. So with that, the last of my Halloween projects is complete. So I hope that you've enjoyed my process here for creating some ATC cards and the little box as well. As always, I'll leave a list of all the products that I've used to create these along with the links to the stores. Now, some of these products, of course, are in my shop, so I would love it if you would check out my shop, and I'll leave the links below for you. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave me a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. All right, everybody, thanks so much for stopping by, and we'll see you again next time.